Is it on? All right. Well, I'm Sam, Eastridge, and right now I am doing some mathematics at Virginia Tech, so grad school in that, and calm down with the envy and jealousy. It's not as great as it sounds. It sounds like a dream job, but you know, it's just another job, so you get to do theoretical math all day, which is you know, what everybody wants to do when they're growing up. And I'm just going to share a little bit about my faith story, you know, where I came from, and really just a story of where God was faithful to me in a time in my life, and kind of a point that I look back to when doubting God's faithfulness and stuff like that. And just a quick story. To go back to the beginning, I came to Christ when I was like 4 or 5. My parents were strong Christians, and they brought me up in church and everything. And my mom would read Bible stories to me before bed growing up, and she kind of explained to me when I don't even remember how old, but like 4 or 5, how you can ask Jesus to come into your heart, and He'll become the Lord of your life and everything. And so I asked Him to come into my heart when I was 4 or 5, and I really don't remember a time before that. You know, it's been a real blessing to always have that hope that comes from knowing Christ and having a relationship with God. And so, you know, there's a lot of joy that comes with that. And so what I kind of feel like best describes my relationship with God, or my walk after coming to know Him, is really I relate a lot to the Israelites and their kind of relationship with God. And I thought maybe Jeff could run through Kings and Chronicles real fast. I don't know if we have time, but maybe just run through that and get a good picture of what my faith story is like. You know, God kind of chose that people, the Israelites, to show His glory to the world, right? And He showed them His grace and His faithfulness time and again, and they were chosen through no great works of their own, and they were given this blessing of having a relationship with Christ. And what did they do over and over? God saved them, and over they just forget about it or get distracted. Or, you know, sometimes it's hard to even figure out what it is that they forget or get distracted from. You know, you're like, how are you turning away again? But it happens over and over, and I see it in my life, and I don't know where it comes from there either. You know, the devil just works in crazy ways sometimes, and God's proven to be faithful in my life over and over, and then somehow, I don't know if it's just distractions or forgetting, it seems as you get further and further from a time when He was faithful to you, or He showed you His grace, it seems less real, or you kind of like, you know, talk it off or something. I don't know what it is, but that's kind of how my story goes, and it's a lot of ups and downs trying to walk with Christ. I feel that my prayer has repeatedly been the psalm, "Restore unto me the joy of my salvation." And it's just knowing God for as long as I can remember and always having a relationship with Him. Sometimes I lose track of how great God's grace is. And I think that people that have really lived in darkness and without hope, and have really seen how awful life can be without that hope, also get a much bigger picture of how great God's grace is. You know, they see how small we are and how much bigger God's grace is. And I think that's a struggle for me constantly, because, you know, as much as my life doesn't always look like I follow God and I try to please Him, I've always had that hope. You know, even when I stray from it a little bit, I've always had the hope. And so I think in that, the blessing is I've always known God's grace, and the curse is I constantly find myself forgetting it. You know, so just a quick story about a time when God was faithful to me. I'll start in college. I started college at Virginia Tech, actually, my undergraduate college, several years ago now at Virginia Tech. And I was cruising along, doing pretty good. I had a good group of friends and everything. And I really wanted to play soccer when I came to Virginia Tech. And so I tried out for the soccer team here, but they're pretty good. and I'm not really that good. It's surprising, but I'm not really that good. So I tried out, I didn't make that. So I tried out for the club team, I didn't make that either, which was a pretty big disappointment for me because I really wanted to play soccer. And I also just didn't really feel that I was growing closer to God. I felt like it was just kind of I had some good friends, but they weren't all that close to God. Some of them were closer than others, and I was kind of cruising through my education and not really, it just wasn't, nothing special. I wasn't really having to work hard or anything. It was just, I didn't feel like I was growing closer. And part of that is always your own fault. You can always, when you sort of go on cruise control, I think of it like when I'm following a car on the interstate and I get tired of using the gas pedal, and you try to get the cruise control exactly right with the car in front of you. But no matter what you do, it always starts pulling away, or you start speeding up and you got to take off cruise control and you're really frustrated. And that's kind of how it felt to me. I'm trying to just get cruise control right, and it just wasn't, every time it wasn't quite right. And I just wasn't persevering in my relationship with Christ. And so really wanted to play soccer. I started thinking about transferring, and it was a really tough decision for me because it was hard to sort out whether it's me wanting to play soccer and just wanting to do what I want to do, or whether it's God, finding something to push me where He wants me to be. And I really just struggled with whether or not this was a decision that I was making for myself, or whether I was making it for God. If I wanted to transfer just for myself, or if I wanted to transfer to please God. And I really prayed hard about the decision. And I felt like it was just, the reason I would want to stay was just because it was easier for me. I already knew people. I really hate not knowing people. I'm not good at that. Like when I'm in a crowd that I don't know people, it's awful to me. It's the worst. I'm a math person, so people are the worst. And so, but not knowing people was really scary for me. And I knew people here, and I felt like it was going to be pretty easy for me to graduate. I had nothing. I probably could have graduated early, and it wouldn't have been a big deal. So I felt like I was making the tough decision to transfer. I was doing it for God. I really wanted to do what God wanted me to do, and I felt like I was making that decision right. I prayed a lot about it and really questioned God what He wanted me to do. So I decided to transfer. I felt like He was calling me to do that, and I went to Presbyterian College down in South Carolina. And you'd be surprised, but I got there and I didn't know anybody, which is a shocking thing. I couldn't believe it. And I kind of sat there after the first day or two, and I was like, I also transferred, and nobody's going to just let me play on a soccer team. They don't know who I am. I just promise I'm good. I'm really good, I promise. And they wouldn't let me on. But at Presbyterian, they said, we'll let you play for the spring. Right, we'll let you hang out and play for the spring and see how it goes. So I felt like that was a good opportunity. But I kind of got there and I was like, man, I don't even know if I'm going to make the soccer team. I don't know anybody here. This just seems awful. I didn't really like my roommate, and I just said, God, I don't know if I made the right decision that You wanted me to make. Honestly, I didn't see anything from heaven come down or anything. But I said, I really know that I was making this decision because I felt like it was what You wanted me to do. You know what I mean? I was really doing this trying to follow You. And I don't know what's going on. So, I didn't make it very far before I was really breaking down. 2 days, I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to make it. So, but anyway, later that day, a pretty good friend of mine from home, which after college, he ended up being one of my best friends, and has really furthered my relationship with the Lord. But he was a pretty good friend that I had known from home, and he walks through the door of my dormitory, and I was like, what are you doing here? And he said, well, yesterday I called and asked if I could transfer, and they said, yeah, just bring your stuff and we'll sign some papers when you get here. So he had just transferred the day before there, and so automatically I knew someone there. That was God answering my prayer right there, like, here you go, here's somebody, come on, quit whining. There's somebody. And then I ended up making the soccer team, and not only that, I've played on a lot of soccer teams, and as a general rule, not a lot of strong Christian guys on them, Athletics is a very prideful thing in general, I feel like, and I've never known a lot of good, strong Christian guys on any of my soccer teams, and I mean, a huge part of the soccer team, the core of it was real strong Christians, and all of them became my really good friends and challenged my faith in God and pushed me closer to Him. So that was a real blessing to get to know them and God putting me in that situation. And then even after that, so when I graduated the summer after that, I went to work at a summer camp, and I met this really beautiful girl from Virginia Tech that I had actually met originally at Virginia Tech. And she ended up saying she would marry me, which was maybe not one of her best decisions, but she did. And it was my wife, Lauren. And I felt like that was even God just showing off, like, okay, I put you over here at PC, but even though I had your wife over here at Virginia Tech, I can still, I can make that work. You don't have to, worry about that sort of thing. So that was really cool to see. Just God putting the icing on the cake there. And so that's kind of an example of when I felt like God has been really faithful to me. And of course, there's no real great conclusion here. I feel like obviously everybody's faith story is still going. You're not dead yet, but it's just so I still fall into times, even here at Virginia Tech. It's been a struggle kind of getting. You'd think doing theoretical math, it's all about proofs and stuff, right? So everyone I'm around is it's a constant struggle you don't want there to be anything you don't understand. I'll say that. That's the worst in the math world. And I feel that insecurity myself. Is just you don't want anyone to know you don't understand something. And God kind of becomes this way of explaining things that you don't understand. So having to believe in God is kind of like having to admit that you don't understand something. And so that's been a struggle for me recently too, just trying to work through that too, and trying to figure out how God works in these different kind of minds, these mathematical minds and logical minds. And He's really been more recently. He's really been testing how much of my faith is rooted in logic and proof of God. You know what I mean? How much of my faith needs proof, and how much of my faith needs faith, I guess, right? So it's just a constant story. But whenever I think it's good to try to remember times when God was faithful to you, so that when you kind of slide back into those times where you forget or it just doesn't seem as real, you have things to look back on. And I see Him constantly re-showing me His grace and re-showing me His mercy and drawing me closer to Him. So that's the total deal.